Everyone, welcome to the program. $100 million is what President Biden pledged to Palestinians in Gaza and the West Bank at the end of his trip to Israel. At the same time, he promised unprecedented support for Israel's defense. The president again affirmed the mounting evidence that Israel is not responsible for the explosion at a Gaza hospital, yet the world continues to rage with protests blaming Israel. Chris Mitchell has the story.
On his way home from Israel, President Biden said Egypt's president agreed to open the Gaza border for humanitarian aid. Before he left Israel, Biden pledged $100 million to Palestinians in Gaza and the West Bank.
Let me be clear. If Hamas diverts or steals the assistance, they will have demonstrated once again that they have no concern for the welfare of the Palestinian people. And it will end. As a practical matter, it will stop the international community from being able to provide this aid.
Republican Senator Rick Scott criticized the president's decision.
And we've got a president that wants to give money to Gazans? Give me a break. And by the way, go look at the videos. There's pictures of these terrorists with humanitarian first aid kits. There's pictures all over Israeli press about these rice bags with bullets in it, right? So this is a humanitarian effort, right? So there's no way that Hamas doesn't get this money. This is stupid.
The president also pledged unprecedented support package for Israel's defense. Following President Biden's visit, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu met with his war cabinet as the IDF continues to strike Hamas terrorists and its infrastructure in the Gaza Strip. Netanyahu also addressed the plight of the hostages that now stands officially at 203.
Regarding the abductees, I clarified three things to President Biden. First, I demand the return of all abductees, and we are working together to return them in any way possible. Second, until they are returned, we demand visits by the Red Cross to our abductees. Third, we will not allow humanitarian aid of food and medicine from our territory to the Gaza Strip.
The Prime Minister also said he presented conclusive evidence that Israel did not strike the hospital in Gaza. The White House National Security Council released its own analysis saying, quote, "Our current assessment is that Israel is not responsible for the explosion at the hospital in Gaza." On Thursday, the IDF produced more visual evidence that the explosion at the hospital in Gaza was the result of a failed rocket fired by Islamic Jihad. The IDF says all the information coming out of Gaza is controlled by Hamas.
Last night, when Hamas announced that Israel attacked a hospital in Gaza, too many people around the world not only believed them, but amplified Hamas lies. Open your eyes and see the true face of Hamas.
Despite Israel's evidence, news of the hospital strike sparked violent protests at the U.S. Embassy in Beirut, the West Bank, and in other cities. The UK's Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, arrived Thursday to show support for Israel, while Iran's president called for nations to sever ties with the Jewish state. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Thank you, Chris. Joining me now to share more is Chuck Holton, who is on the ground in Israel. Chuck, you often race to these war zones. You're often in disaster areas. You're a former Army Ranger, war correspondent. I'm curious what expectations you had heading into this region, and is the situation what you expected?
Yeah, I would say it is what I expected. Every war is a little bit different. It kind of has its own flavor. This one is, well, I guess what's different about this, what's strange about it, is the number of people coming back here from around the world to fight for their country. So I just didn't realize there were Jews in so many different places. It's very common because everyone here has to serve in the military. Once you've completed your term of service, you take a gap year and you go traveling around the world. So when you go to the airport, there are all these 20-somethings with like long hair, dreadlocks, tattoos, coming in with their backpacks. And it almost looks like spring break, but then you walk outside the airport and it looks like they're preparing for a hurricane or a big storm. And so that that's a little strange. Of course, people are very on edge, and that's led to some very difficult times to do the reporting that we have to do. Even just moments ago, we had some police show up and ask us what we were doing here on this playground, because you have to be very, very careful about what you film and where you film, because anything that you put up live can be used by the enemy to target anything important. So we have to be very careful about showing the troops. We have to be very careful about showing any kind of military thing. We've already been detained several times just in the last 4 or 5 days trying to do this job. So that's kind of common, but at the same time, that attitude of all these young 20-somethings that are coming in here, getting back together, reuniting with old friends, and then putting on uniforms and picking up guns and going out to defend their country is something I haven't seen elsewhere.
Chuck, I'm curious your view based upon the fact that you've served in combat. So the world is waiting for this ground invasion into Gaza. It's been, a few days now. We're waiting. Can you talk about that mission and the dangers and maybe why there's still a wait going on?
Yes, I have talked to several IDF officers about this, and they say, why should we hurry in there? It's obvious that they've been preparing for this and that they are continuing to prepare for this. But right now, in a way, time is on the side of the IDF, because the longer they wait, the more they can degrade the enemy's capabilities inside Gaza. They can continue to strike at targets in there, continue to remove the possibility of IEDs, mines, booby traps, things like that, by bombing those areas that they're going into, and at the same time give the civilians in that area more time to get out. So they have told me, look, we hope this is not a fast operation, because this is so important and such a serious issue that we are going to take all the time that's necessary, and we're not going to be hurried into doing this operation. We're going to plan it, and then we're going to strike at a time of our choosing, and when we do, we're going to dismantle the Hamas operation.
Chuck, last question. Nations on both sides of this issue are pledging support. Some are giving financial support. Do you see other nations, Iran perhaps, sending troops in? I mean, getting really involved in the war, fighting at some point?
Iran supports these militias inside Iraq called the Hashishabi. And I've actually been with those militias before, and when they were fighting ISIS, and it was kind of the enemy of my enemy is my friend kind of thing. And those guys are pretty serious. I'm told that 1,000 of those Hashishabi fighters recently crossed from Syria into Lebanon, and that's not a good sign. The IDF, we were just up in the north over the last couple of days, and they have a tremendous number of troops up there, and they are digging in. They are moving armor into place. And if it wasn't for all of the fighting that's going on here in the south, the media would already be saying that the IDF is at war with Hezbollah in the north, because they're trading shots back and forth across the border multiple times every day. So it is getting more and more serious, and this brinksmanship that we see going on here is common for these kinds of conflicts, but it's a very, very serious thing now, because it risks expanding this conflict to a regional war, which we certainly don't need in light of the fact that there are already a big war going on in Europe with Ukraine and Russia. There's a potential war about to happen between Armenia and Azerbaijan. There are wars in Africa already. This is not good, and it feels like the run-up to a world war like World War II.
Sobering report. Chuck, thank you so much for being with us today. Really appreciate it. All right, everyone, we have put together a DVD that gives the historical background to the news you're seeing today. It's called Whose Land Is It? And it has answers to questions such as whether or not Gaza and the West Bank are occupied territory, and why the refugee crisis still remains a problem more than 70 years later. And you can receive a copy with instant streaming access of Whose Land Is It for a gift of any dollar amount. Go to cbn.com/whoseland or call us 800-700-7000.
Hello, I'm Gordon Robertson. Thanks for watching the video. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more encouraging videos like this one. Welcome to the 700 Club Interactive family, and God bless you.